Alrighty, so you're gonna need a bunch of materials. I've shown them all to you. They're all really inexpensive, and you can get them anywhere in the world, pretty much. Total cost of this device is gonna be about $3, and you're not gonna use that white stuff. You're just gonna want sand instead of magnesium oxide. But all this is pretty standard. Instead of a hacksaw, you could use a table saw if you want. This is some optional stuff. Might help you hold your items in place if you have a vise or a stand. Now, Grace is starting to make the heating element, the diode chain, and she's cutting the diodes down to size with wire cutters. And once they're the right size, she's going to put them in the helping hands, which is just going to hold them for her as she solders them together. Make sure you solder them the right direction. You want gray to black, so you can test this with a voltmeter if you have one, but don't put black to black. Just put gray to black. It's not that hard. Alright, now she's getting high temperature lead-free solder on her diode connections. And we're not going to teach you how to solder, unfortunately, but you can find that anywhere but here. Gonna speed this up a bit. You're just gonna add the diodes one by one. Gonna want one chain of 12 and one of 11 so that you have 23 in total. But before you connect those two, you're gonna want a temperature switch in between those. So we'll show you that in just a second. Definitely does get tedious, and you're gonna burn yourself. So wear some gloves, wear some glasses, don't be stupid, and treat yourself. So to get the temperature switch on there, you just kind of ravel it around the diode lead and then solder it just like all the other connections. We personally use a 150 Celsius bimetallic temperature switch. We have a special plastic casing. You can also use dielectric tape to keep it from shorting. So she also soldered lead wires onto the ends of each diode chain. They are about 14 gauge, which handles 10 amps. Those are going to hook directly to your solar panel. And there's another wire, just the yellow one you're going to see in a second, which is going to be the phone wire. So she does the same thing here, and after you get that on both ends, you're going to take the phone wire and put it at the 5-volt node of the diode chain. At that 5-volt node, which is about 7 diodes in on either side, just going to solder it on just like anything else. And then those two wires, the black and yellow, can connect to a USB to make a phone charger. And that can also run simultaneously while you're cooking. Pretty great, I know. Then any spots where there's metal sticking out, including solder, you're going to want to cover those with dielectric tape, which it also will not melt, so that's good. It keeps the electricity from shorting onto the external metal tube that you see here. It's standard in a lot of electrical industries. I used a hacksaw to cut this metal right here, which is aluminum. You can really use any kind of saw. And then you're gonna rub some soap on the aluminum, bar soap. Then you're gonna heat treat it, aka anneal it, by torching it for about 2 minutes. You'll know when it's done because the soap will turn black. This softens the metal, allows you to bend it and put it in a vise and other things like that, so it won't crack very easily. After you've heat treated it, you're going to shove the diode chain in the tube, which is painstakingly hard. If you aren't able to do this, you can get a bigger tube, you can try again, maybe look for a new career, all sorts of different options there. So here we're making our mixture. You're not going to use this white stuff. You're going to use sand, and you're going to use 4 parts sand to 2 parts cement to 1 part water, and that's by mass. That's a mass ratio. Don't do a volume ratio. You can use a scale to weigh the masses. So you're going to mix the sand and cement dry, then you're going to add the water and mix again. Then you are going to pour that into your tube. And you want it to be a consistency that you can pour into a very tight space. It's probably not going to fit through a syringe, but you can try maybe a little spoon or a funnel. And just remember, it should be between the consistency of like a milk and jelly, sort of in between there. It's got to flow past a really tight space between the diodes and the wall of your tube. A toothbrush and some tapping on a wall can help you do that and get all the air bubbles out, so it will conduct heat as quick as possible. You don't want air bubbles. That's actually could be dangerous. Heats up, the air expands, and could ruin things. So once you have your mixture in the tube, or even before if you prefer to do it this way, it doesn't really matter. You're going to bend the tube. So we have a sleeve here that goes on the outer diameter of the tube and just keeps it supported so it doesn't crack or bend in on itself, and you can really do whatever shape you desire. Just don't make the radius too small, otherwise it will crack or tear. Once you've got your tube bent and you've got the mixture in there, whatever order you choose, you're going to add some alligator clips, and you can just simply put those on with pliers. Make sure they touch the copper of the wire so that the electricity conducts to them. Now we're mixing JB Weld. You can use really any epoxy for this. We just chose JB Quick because it dries in a few minutes. But before you put this on, you're going to make sure to heat up your device, get all the excess water out of it, right? Because we're all safe, right? Then you can do that with a power source or a solar panel. It should take maybe 30 minutes and you'll see steam coming out. Then after that, you'll get the epoxy on, as we did, and then once the epoxy's dried, you can clean it. Just get off all the soap and gunk. So here's an alternative heater. If you don't want to bend the metal, you can just get slightly larger diameter tubing, heat treat it all the same as we did, and then you're going to shut the end in a vise. Just squeeze it shut, then bend it over 90 degrees, a little bit more than 90 degrees with a plier. Pair of pliers, and then shove it back in the vise so that it has 2 bends, just like a toothpaste tube. And then you're good.